what this case shows and the attention it receives is that the question of migration is very much has divided Europe. So what we've seen over the past few years, it's been something that's going on for decades, but it's really become reinforced in the last 5 years, is the security approach. So really governing migration as a security problem or threat. And we can see that this is being contested. And we've seen this since the outbreak of the so-called migration crisis, lots and lots of signs of solidarity of citizens on the streets. And I think that what we can see here is that, this is potentially a turning point. Has Europe gone too far?
Now, Italian law says that she resisted a warship, but international maritime law seems to go in her favor, saying that she had to rescue, had to bring these migrants to a safe harbor. Which point of view do you think will win out, and what might the consequences be?
I think what we can see here is that law is extremely politicized. So we know that search and rescue is a question of international maritime law. We're not speaking about migration governance here. We're speaking about the right to life. So the right to bring these people to a port of safety. Now, what has happened is that we've seen that this border management security agenda has entered into the field of search and rescue. And this is very much present on the ground as we see ministries of interiors that are becoming increasingly involved in search and rescue, or actually border control operations. So I think what we see here is very much the politicization of law. And we see that it's very much the securitization of humanitarian assistance is very much on a continuum with the securitization of migration. So we're in a situation today where for an asylum seeker to reach Europe, he or she basically has to break the law, embark on a dangerous journey.
So why couldn't the captain bring the migrants back to Libya or to another European port, for example, instead of Lampedusa?
This is also, so taking migrants and refugees back to a port which is considered unsafe is a practice of refoulement. It is going against international law. So the UN has condemned this practice time and time again. We know full well of the situation in Libya. Migrants put in detention centres indefinitely. We've seen practices of slave labour, torture, rape. We know that Libya is an unsafe place for migrants. They should not be taken back there. Europe is bypassing its legal obligation by strengthening Libyan coast guards so that they themselves stop migrants and bring them back. So this is very much a legal grey zone in my eyes.
Rakitis case is not an isolated one. There's also the quite high-profile case of Pia Klemp, another captain in the same situation who's risking now 20 years in prison in Italy for personally helping to rescue close to 1,000 migrants at sea. What is it, do you think, that pushes women like Pia Klemp or Captain Rakitic to do this kind of work?
I think, as I mentioned before, Europe is divided. So we do see increasing amounts of solidarity against populations which are being persecuted. I think this is extremely important. I think it's very dangerous for Europe that we've seen this criminalisation, securitization of migration, but also of humanitarian assistance. If we want Europe to be a place of hospitality, true to these European values which we talk about, ones of solidarity and human rights, then cases like these women are ones that are kind of symbols of those that are trying to keep Europe or take Europe to this place.
What about on the flip side? Some people argue that cases like these might actually hurt the migrant cause, promote more far-right feeling in countries like Italy that feel they have just too many migrants.
No, I think it's absolutely not cases like these. I think what is happening is it's toxic language, which I think it's very important to remember that public opinion is shaped by the media, it's shaped by political decision makers. So if we take the case of Italy, so we had the Italian-led operation of Mare Nostrum, which was an Italian search and rescue operation. Most of the Italian public were behind this operation, but this operation was demonized by those in Italy and also outside of Italy, which gradually changed the opinion of the Italian public. And this has actually created space for people like Salvini to rise. So, of course, Salvini is on the extreme, but the space in which Salvini situates himself, one where he criminalises humanitarian assistance, is something that is also taken on, unfortunately, by the mainstream.